Hey guys, it's Lorentz from iWood cosplay, and today I'm going to show you guys how I made Shinso's mask.
So I'm going to start this build with the pattern I've designed. If you're interested in building these, patterns to these are available in the description down below. For this project, I'm going to use various thickness of foam. I'll have a link to these in the description as well. Now, you don't have to use various thickness of foam, but keep in mind, it will affect your overall build. However, I like using various thickness because it gives the mask more aesthetic and dimension. Another option you can use is my kit. Now this has laser cut details and comes with various thickness of foam. So I'm going to get started with the usual contact cement, razor, Sharpie, and steel ruler. Starting with the pattern, everything is pretty straightforward. However, there are a few pieces I would like to show you how to cut. These are registration marks. You cut them out on the pattern, but not on the foam. Pin down your pattern onto the piece of foam. Carefully trace that with your Sharpie. Now flip over the pattern and trace the other side. And there you go, you should have something like that. Now this next part, I'm going to show you guys how to make this crosshatch detail. So I start by cutting out the detail. Now I'm going to take that same pattern and place it over the same foam pattern I just traced. You should now have the detailed section. By using a ruler and a razor, we're going to make the crosshatch pattern by scoring the foam in this fashion and only in the detailed section. Make sure you don't cut all the way here. Now take a heat gun and apply it to the section you just worked on to reveal the work you've made. If you did everything correctly, you should have something like this. Now the next pattern that needs explaining is this piece. And like before, we're going to trace the pattern and then cut out the detail section. You should have a flap like this, reposition the pattern, and trace the detail. Using a sharp blade, I prefer a thin one, we're going to cut the detailed line. That should pop through like so. Now you just have to hot glue it or contact cement this, and that's how you make that detail. If you're starting with a kit, you won't have to worry about those details. I'm going to organize these as the base layers, this section of the mask, as well as the nose piece. Starting with the base layer, I'm going to heat seal it with a heat gun. Keeping the pieces organized helps in this process. So I'm going to flip these around and heat seal them. And then I'm going to apply contact cement to these pieces of foam, making sure to brush on the coats evenly and only to the appropriate sections of the mask. I'm going to let it dry for a minute and then begin positioning the two pieces at this corner. Make sure the corner and the edges are lined up. Then you can press the foam together. If you lined up your edges properly, they should look something like this. The more patient you are in this process, the better the final product will come out. Now for the next layer, we're going to line it up and mark the edges. This will tell us where we should apply the contact cement. This is basically what I would be doing for all the layers on the base of the mask. However, on the final piece, I recommend curving the mask before pressing the two pieces of foam together. This helps give your mask more depth and curvature. The next step is tracing this rectangle piece onto the mask. Now for this next part, I'm going to use my favorite spray adhesive, Loctite 200. I'll have this in the description down below as well. Apply the spray adhesive to all pieces of the foam, give it a second, and then apply the details accordingly. The next step is to put the mask together. I didn't show this part where I apply the contact cement, but you apply it along the edges and follow the registration marks, which is the crosshatch pattern. So if you didn't wait long enough like I did and begin putting pieces together, you'll get something like this. If that happens to you, it's bad. Just give it another minute before putting them together. If things are still getting undone, you can come back with some super glue. For this earpiece, you're going to push out the flap and then apply contact cement to the edges. Apply a bit of contact cement to this side as well. And then I'm going to apply contact cement to these pieces of foam. Let your contact cement dry, and then put your pieces of foam together. Alright, we're almost done here. Now it's time for the nose pieces. So these two nose pieces are going to sit right here on the mask. The corner of this nose piece should sit flush on the mask, just like the way I designed it. Everything looks good so far, except here, I realized it's a little short. So I went ahead and redesigned these nose pieces to be a little bit longer. I'm going to cut out these new pattern and then trace them on a 2mm piece of foam. Making sure these edges right here are beveled. Apply the contact cement and let it dry for a bit. Putting the two pieces together, I would start with the bevel edges, like so. So the key here is to create a flushed bevel with two pieces of stacked foam. Now you just have to do that for the other side as well. So the reason for the bevel is to create a nice edge along the seam. And there you have it. Now to add a little more detail, we're going to cut along this edge. I like this because it gives the mask more depth. So I had applied contact cement to these earpieces earlier. Here I'm going to show you how to put them together. So what you do is pop it down, push it, and then squeeze the edges together. You can come back with some super glue to fill in the gaps. Here I'm using a CA accelerator to speed up the process. And that's how you make these earpieces. So here I've already heated up and I'm going to shape them to give them more curve. So the foam piece that was pushed in on this piece is going to be shaved off like so. That creates a flush surface for when we attach it to the mask. This gap right here was designed for a 1-inch elastic band. But before I attach the elastic band, I'm going to plasti dip everything I made up to this point. So after 15 minutes, the plasti dip is dry and I'm ready to put on the elastic band. Now this is going to vary from individuals face to face. For me, the elastic band is only going to be that long, so I'm going to give it some extra room and then cut it. So I'm going to use a slide buckle mechanism here, fold the elastic band in half and then cut it. Hot glue the elastic band accordingly, secure the band firmly like so. For extra security, I would apply some more glue over the elastic band. Now you can use any strapping mechanism here, but I'm using a slide buckle because I want this to be adjustable, since it's not for me but for someone else. Everything's looking good so far. Here I'm just going to test out the strapping mechanism. This end piece will sit here. Take your Sharpie and mark the end. Here I'm just making sure the left and right are symmetric. Once that's good, I'm going to apply the super glue and position it accordingly. And do the same thing on the other side. And there you have it. One last thing, of course, the knobs. Pretty straightforward, just apply the super glue and stick them on. And there you have it, Shinso's mask.
Overall, I think this took me about 3 to 4 hours to make, if you include the plasti dip and the hot glue and everything. But I'm pretty stoked with the way it turned out. I was really happy with it. Let me know what you guys think of this. If there was any part in the tutorial that was confusing, let me know in the comments down below. If you happen to know the answer to that question, feel free to answer. If you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new here, you want to see more of my content, make sure you subscribe. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Until then, I'll see you guys again.